Good morning, people. Just got back from another sailing trip out in the islands over Canada Day. It was a little bit of a gong show out there, more traffic than we had a couple of weeks ago, but still, I mean, with fuel prices and such, I would say it's probably about 50% of what has been more typically the case. So yeah, really nice time. Mostly had pretty good weather. Got some fishing in, some crabbing in, all that kind of good stuff. It was nice to get away. Coming back was a bit of a push. The river was running really high, and it took a fair amount of time to cover the distance between the river mouth and my slip. But we just lumped it along, and we got there, and it was all good. So, anyway, a conversation that I want to have today. For any of you who are sporting a touch of consciousness, I think it becomes shockingly, glaringly evident that we are right now, as we discussed all of last year, transversing the crisis moment from the economy and the world and the governing structures that we enjoyed perhaps over the last 20 years to something completely new and novel. And I expect this new novel thing will be even less constructive for the average working class person than it was over the last 20 or so years, which, in spite of the fact it being the moment of greatest economic power that the human race has ever seen, in fact, most people, even in the developed world, were left out of that party, and certainly individuals who are not in the developed world were excluded entirely. The future that we are moving into is one of scarcity, hardship, depletion, conflict. This is where we're going. It's inevitable. Now even it's commonplace to talk about not just recessions, but big recessions, severe recessions. That's mainstream even among the pundits of the Goldman Sachs set. Again, I would say it's different than that. This is a systemic situation. We are moving into a kind of world where the old rules and the old ways of doing business no longer applied. That's due to the physical limitations on growth imposed by reality. This will tend not just into a recession, but a depression and a collapse of what we have called human civilization. It is inevitable. It has started. And now we're going to live through it. So one of the things that I intend to be very proactive about over the next few months stems back to the conversation we've had about, my pirate pods motif. I need to really hustle and double down on that. And we should talk about that in greater detail. The future to me looks difficult enough that a quick and easy way towards more security and more prosperity and more resilience than the average schmuck is able to enjoy is having the capacity to relate to other quality, exceptional people in a complementary manner. This is something most people can't do. The average person is unable to form quality relationships with anything. This, in fact, is a characteristic of our culture. Our culture is based on exploitation of other as a first principle. For those who are comfortable with that, it is impossible that they can reconcile the comforts that they enjoy due to the exploitation of other that, in fact, butters their bread. It is impossible for them to reconcile that with the true calling of their love for life and where that real, humane, authentic human heart guides them. So for those of us whose calling for a love of life and quality relationship is nearly a compulsion, for those of us, we cannot either reconcile that calling with the reality of the culture that we live within and its inherently exploitive and destructive characteristics. For those of us who exceptionally are drawn to relating to other, whether that's life or partners or anything, for those of us who are drawn to that strongly, we have been forced to live differently. The choice for us, those who are strongly called to relationship, has been this: either have a conventional lifestyle and forever forego the ability to relate meaningfully to other, to choose that, or to give up any hope of a conventional lifestyle with the hope that somewhere, somehow, real quality, authentic relation can happen. And if you're like me, I am sure that that resonates with you deeply. And if you're not like me, your ability to relate to others is probably so stunted that you don't even see that the choice exists. So I'm sure this message resonates loud and clear for those that kind of are of my like tribe. I'm here to encourage those of you who share these values to contemplate really doubling down, to really being very proactive about reaching out to try to find bonds with other individuals who share these values. That's going to be very important. Certainly there have been pleasures and comforts within the civilizational project as it has gone along that have been tantalizing and tempting. Once those go away, or they become impossibly scarce, you're not going to find much within the bosom of civilization other than control and servitude, in fact. There wasn't a lot there for us in the first place. There's going to be much less of anything attractive there in the future. So doubling down on the ability to relate to other meaningful, authentic, humane people where you can find them is going to become really essential. So again, people do ask me, it's like, well, Quaz, where do you find these people? And I'm like, it's pretty easy, really. I promise you that exceptional, caring people live differently. It's not a choice. If your heart is injured by what civilization has done to life, you will be forced to live your life differently. There isn't an alternative. There's no way to make peace with that. You will live your life different, in a different manner, guaranteed. How that looks, I'm not sure. I have found my path through this aquatic lifestyle. It's what I know best. Works really well. But I'm sure there's other routes. But guaranteed, there will be something that is done differently in your life or in the people's lives whom you seek, where they have found a way of reconciling the unfortunate discomfort of having to have some Congress with this destructive technocratic control state and still trying to keep their basic humanity alive. Believe me, they're doing something different. All exceptional people are going to do something really different. That does not mean, and one should be cautious, that you can assume that people who just live differently are somehow also exceptional. They may be people who are very much of the mindset of destructive civilization, just bad at it. They have made no choices. They've simply dropped out of it. There are plenty of flunkies to be found among the different too. But I guarantee you, if exceptionalism guarantees difference, you have to look among the different to find exceptional people. This attitude, in fact, is quite reminiscent to a value that is found in most examples around the world of individuals who are drawn to a high level of ethical character or some kind of moral calling. There's an idea that you find all over among people who practice these sorts of things intelligently and authentically, of somehow finding a way to be within the world, meaning mostly the world of human beings, but not being a participant of it or in it. To be in the world, but not of it. That is the creative tension and the primary ethical task of anyone who lives with a heart full of love for life, while still being compelled to participate in society as most human beings have created it. That's nothing new. This particular moment in history may be an unusually interesting and unusually difficult and unusually savage moment in which to navigate that. I expect it may be, mostly because of how far the pendulum has swung away from empathy and how far it has swung towards a ubiquitous expectation of exploitation. I am not sure that it's ever been this severe ever in human history. It doesn't matter. The pendulum is going to swing back the other way for at least some of us. That opportunity may exist. Let's be proactive about it. So I am inviting here a very open, candid conversation about how to take, say, this pirate pod concept a step or two further into being, an objective reality, one that expresses and is absolutely viscerally aware of certain values that it seems human beings once held dear, but now have largely been forgotten. Things that we would like to bring out of the darkness and be held up once again as some of the most precious aspects of living. I would like to have some help from other people in doing that. I do think that in this idea that I have, that stems from my seasteading motif of cooperative communities of like-minded individuals based around a seafaring lifestyle, that there's tremendous potential there. The environment makes these kinds of values much more accessible and constructive than they do within conventional lifestyles. That's the reason most of us are here. I am very eagerly inviting the conversation in a very, again, candid and overt manner in how we could potentially, if this resonates with you, make a good show, be good stewards of elevating these values once again, demonstrating them to be as precious as they actually are, and moving into the future in an optimistic and resilient manner. There's an opportunity here for us who have chosen this lifestyle that very, very few people will ever be even able to draw near to. And as such, being in that position of, prosperity, I guess I would say, it would be right for us to, pick up that task and take it as seriously as the moment actually demands of us. So there you go. A take and an invitation. I'm eager to hear your comments and thoughts, guys. Cheers.